Chapter 9. Demented Deity.
Systematically, by degrees, step by step, we shall punish them in ways they cannot even imagine.
Having survived the deluge of hate unleashed in the last chapter, let's dive back into the Koran. After all, Islam has seduced 1 billion souls. There must be something godly somewhere.
Quran 68, verse 1. I call to witness the pen and what it writes.
The Islamic God just asked an inanimate object to bolster his credibility by witnessing on his behalf.
You are not a demented madman or possessed.
With all the evidence to the contrary, Mohammed found a spirit who didn't think he was crazy. But as reassuring as that may sound to some, it's one of the most disturbing things I've read in a document that purports to be Scripture. For if we are to take this at face value, the Islamic God found it necessary to tell his last and most important messenger that he wasn't demon-possessed.
Quran 68, verse 3. Nay, truly for you is a never-ending reward.
I know it's not polite to gloat, but I told you so. Islam was a business transaction between a man who craved power, sex, and money, and a spirit who knew how to scratch an itch. So the most immoral man to claim prophet status said of himself.
Quran 68, verse 4. You are an exalted character of tremendous morality. Soon you will see, and they will see, which of you is afflicted with madness. Surely the Lord knows best who errs from his way, and who follows the right course. So don't listen to those who deny, or those who would form compromises with you to get you to relent. Heed not despicable men, or contemptible swearers, or backbiters. Neither obey feeble oathmongers, or slanderers, going about defaming, hindering good, transgressing beyond bounds, crude, deep in sin, violent and cruel, greedy and intrusive, ignoble, and besides all that, mean and infamous, because they possessed wealth and numerous sons.
I am astonished that someone would have the gall to pass off this hateful, mean-spirited rant as Scripture. There were 20 slurs in this paragraph alone. One would have been more than sufficient. And as for exalted character of tremendous morality, Mohammed was a sexual pervert. He engaged in rape, incest, pedophilia, grand theft, mass murder, and the slave trade. Exalted character of tremendous morality. Yeah, right.
Quran 68, verse 15. When you recite our proofs and verses from the Koran, they cry, Tales of the ancients, mere fables of long ago. Soon we shall muzzle them and brand the beast on the snout.
Ouch! Mohammed's Lord chafes when he's called a plagiariser. Must be hitting a little too close to home. Let's turn to the surah and see just how close.
Ishaq. According to my information, the apostle often sat by a young Christian slave named Jabr. The Meccans said, He is the one who teaches Muhammad most of what he brings. Then Allah revealed, in Quran 16, verse 103, We know that they, the pagans, say, It is only a mortal man who teaches him. That's Muhammad. But the tongue of the man they wickedly point to is notably foreign, while this Koran is purely Arabic.
When accused of plagiarism, the best team Islam could do was to claim that the Bible Jabr was quoting from wasn't written in Arabic. That's a problem. First, by responding to the Meccans' claim that Mohammed was out of his mind, a demon-possessed madman, plagiarizing Scripture, the Koran confirmed that these were legitimate concerns. Mohammed's kin were convinced he was demon-possessed and insane. Second, the Koran continues to reflect man's least civil nature, rather than rising above the fray and inspiring humankind. Name-calling isn't divine, and the never-ending argument isn't motivational. Further, without the supplemental scripture from the Hadith, the Koran's response is senseless. No one would have any way of knowing who was talking to whom, or why. Senseless material that floats aimlessly outside of place, circumstance, and time doesn't belong in a book that claims to be dictated word for word by God. Third, if Arabic was Allah's chosen language of revelation, why were his earlier revelations written in Hebrew and Greek? And as illiterates, Team Islam remains confused as to how translations work. Words are just tools, names for things and ideas mankind uses to convey a message. Every language has a word for demon, God, mad, and plagiarize. This argument goes to the root of why today's Muslims say their Quranic message can't be translated. They still don't understand the nature of language. Little do they know the Greek Gospels they are so fond of claiming credit for literally began their existence as translations of Aramaic conversations. Further, the source of the Quran's inspiration and its audience were so dim-witted, the claim was positioned, that changing the language obfuscated the source. That's as lame as Muslims claiming that Mohammad couldn't have stolen his Koran from the Bible because he couldn't read, suggesting his surahs were therefore miraculous. Yet even the Koran pokes holes at this argument by saying that the Jews incorrectly read their scriptures to Mohammed, saying words that weren't actually on their scrolls. All this Christian source had to do was to verbally convey the gist of the Bible stories, and judging by the quality of the material we are reading, the prophet was qualified to twist them from there. Fifth, by bringing this argument, the Quran injured itself. The rebuttal is a lie. The Quran wasn't written in pure Arabic. The plethora of parentheses in the Quran text we have been examining proves this. They were put there to fill in for missing words, fix the grammatical errors, solve the problem of dangling participles, and render a discernible message. Moreover, as you'll discover in the source material appendix, the Quran's most important words are foreign. They are Christian Syriac or Rabbinic Hebrew. Allah's book contains many words that have no meaning in any language, including Arabic. In its defense, the Quran says only Allah knows what they mean. But that defeats the whole purpose of Scripture. While we're on the subject of exposing the words of fools, the 16th surah says,
verse 103, "When we replace a message with another, and Allah knows best what He reveals, they say, 'You have made it up.'"
The Meccans recognized that Muhammad's Quran recitals were conflicting, and that the prophet couldn't keep his story straight. They knew that internal contradiction was the surest sign something was bogus. Since Mohammed wasn't able to refute his critics' claims, he had his spirit friend belittle them. Even today, unable to defend Islam, Muslims slander and threaten their accusers. The warning,
"Surely we will try them,"
in the 68th surah is followed by 7 verses of incoherent gibberish. I'll pick up the scripture reading at the 25th verse.
"So they,"
Mohammed's Meccan tormentors,
"departed, conversing in secret, saying, 'We have lost our way.' And when they saw it, they said, 'We are in error. We are made to suffer.' They turned one against another, in reproach blaming each other. They said, 'Alas for us! We were disobedient.' They said, 'Woe to us! Such is the punishment in this life, but greater is the punishment in the hereafter.'"
Nothing pleases an insecure and abused man more than the thought of his critics groveling at his feet, admitting that they were wrong. And when they beg for mercy, none is given. The Quran is little more than a mirror reflecting Muhammad's inadequacies.
Quran 68, verse 35. "Shall we treat those who submit and obey like the disbelievers?"
Muhammad's favorite words,
"Submit and obey."
They permeate the Quran. The Prophet's Islamic empire would be based on this simple formula.